The contract maintenance window is the largest window in Sage Accpac. It houses all of the contract information, project information for projects assigned to the contract, and category and resource information as assigned to each project. This is the heart and soul of PJC. You use this form to create new contracts and assign projects and categories, enter estimates, and manage and track costs, revenues, and project statuses. Let's start by looking at an existing contract. The top portion of the window contains the contract header information, including the contract number, description, and status. If the contract is at the estimate or approved status, no projects assigned to it can exceed this status. Everything must be at estimate or approved until the contract is opened. The estimate or approved status does not allow for transaction entry, except for opening balances. A status of on hold will show a message indicating the on hold status when the contract is selected on a transaction. Inactive, completed, and closed statuses do not allow for further transaction entry or posting. The contract page defines contract information. You must assign a structure code for the contract number entered so that segments that require validation can be verified. You can optionally select a customer number from AR to allow for billing to that customer, or you can leave the customer number blank for internal contracts where you only want to track costs. You assign an account set for the contract. This will define the default accounts that are used on each project and category assigned to this contract. You can optionally select a contract manager. This will be an employee code defined in PJC Setup. Next, you define the contract style, basic or standard. Remember that the difference between these styles is that basic allows for estimate entry at the category level, while standard allows for estimate entry at the resource category level. In other words, with the standard style, you must specify each resource that will be working on the contract projects. The setting here is the default for each project assigned to this contract. You can select the contact information zoom to review or edit contact information. This information defaults to the contact defined in the customer record in AR. To the right, you can define dates related to this contract, specifically the start date and the original end date, and the projected end date. Note that since we are dealing with an existing contract that has open projects and values, certain fields are not available to be edited. The Use Contract Settings For section of the window allows you to define default settings for assigning projects and categories to this contract. While in PJC Setup, you defined projects with default accounting methods and project types. Once you're in Contract Maintenance, you can override these defaults manually. If you use these settings, the project and category values will be overridden with the selections made here. This allows for greater consistency and ease of data entry when entering projects and categories if needed. You can select the fields that you want to establish default settings with the checkbox, and then define the values for these fields. Finally, you can enter comments for the contract here. On this contract window, you can select the Projects tab to view a list of the projects assigned to this contract and add new projects. However, we will be using a different method for navigation. The Totals page allows you to review the total estimates, actuals, and recognize dollar amounts for the contract. This is a roll-up of all project amounts. It is important to note that we are looking at the contract maintenance window with the tree view. This allows you to see the breakdown of contracts, projects, and categories in the Explorer section at the left. If you do not want to use the tree view, you can hide the tree using the button provided. In the tree view, you can see the contract as the root folder. Beneath that are subfolders for the projects that are assigned to the contract. The colors of the folder indicate the project status. For now, you can see regular colored folders and blue folders. The blue folders are projects that are at the estimate stage. The regular colored folders are open and can accept transactions. There are additional folder shades and images for the other statuses. To open a project, simply select the project folder. The project window appears to the right in place of the contract window with different tabs. It should be noted here that due to the different project styles, project types, and accounting methods available, The fields and settings that appear from this window on can be different from project to project. Also, some settings are not available for editing once the project is open. The line number for the project is automatically defined. You can select a project code here and enter or override the description for the project. On the Project tab, you can enter a purchase order number if necessary. You then specify the project style, type, and accounting method. Remember that based on your selections for these fields, your method of estimate entry will be different, and various fields and settings for this project will appear differently. For example, the current accounting method selected is accrual basis. You can see in the GL Accounts section below that a billing account is not necessary for this accounting method. If we change the accounting method to billings and costs, the billings account field can now be edited. The accounting method field would not be available for editing if the project had an approved or higher status. You can specify the billing type for this project. This becomes the default for categories assigned to the project. You can also specify the retainage settings for customer billing. Retainage is going to be discussed in a separate section. On the right, you can define the project status, dates, and options for closing the project to billings and costs. Your options for closing the project to billings and costs limit which types of transactions you can enter. For example, you may not want to place the project on hold or inactive, but you may want to stop all cost entries from being recorded for the project. You can accomplish this by changing the Close to Costs field to Yes. The GL Accounts section allows you to define or edit the accounts that are assigned to this project from the account set selected at the contract level. Note that the accounts that are shown here relate directly to the accounting method and project type. The Taxes page allows you to define the tax groups and tax classes that are used when billing. This will be available for editing at the category level and on transaction entry as well, based on the project type and accounting method used. The Totals page allows you to review the total estimates, actuals, and recognized dollar amounts for the project. This is a roll-up of all category amounts. The next few pages offer roll-ups by cost class. For each cost class, you can review the total estimates, actuals, and recognized amounts and quantities. The Activity page provides a snapshot of the latest transaction dates and outstanding amounts for the project. Again, back to the tree view, we can go one level further to the category. However, since this project style is standard, we must go to the resource first, then category. To review the categories and resources assigned to this project, you can expand the folder in the tree view by clicking the plus sign next to it. This is what a standard project breakdown looks like. There is a category subfolder, and a subfolder for each cost class. To identify the resources assigned to this project, you can expand a cost class subfolder. For example, opening the employee folder, you can see employees that are assigned to this project. And under an employee folder is the category or task that the employee will be performing. Once the category folder is selected, the category window now appears to the right where the project window appeared. You can see that this is where estimates are entered. Remember that the settings and fields will change based on the accounting method and project type. As this project is still at the estimate stage, numbers in blue under the original estimates column can be edited. Once the project is at the approved stage or higher, these numbers will move to the current estimates column and will not be available for editing from the contract maintenance window. At the top of the category window, you can select the billing type and review the overhead burden calculation method. And since this is a labor cost category, the labor burden calculation method as well. For standard projects, these calculation methods are not able to be edited here. They must be edited for this category in the category subfolder. The category subfolder contains additional setup information for the category. As this is a standard project, the estimates here are a roll-up of the estimates for this category. Note that you can edit the labor burden percent and overhead burden percent. These values are in blue. You can also define the calculation methods for these burdens at the top. On the Accounts page, you can define the GL accounts used for transactions using this category. Note that the WIP and cost of sales accounts may or may not show on this page, depending on the accounting method. Also, depending on the accounting method, you may or may not be able to edit the tax classes for the tax authorities in the group assigned at the project level for billing. So far, we've been looking at an existing standard project. In order to look at a basic project style, we must add a new project here. To do this, we can simply right-click on the contract folder in the tree view and select New Project. Both standard and basic projects can exist within the same contract. As before, the project window appears to the right. We can add a new project. Remember that some of the settings here are defaulting from the contract window. Changing the project style to basic does not affect the fields or tabs on the project window. However, if we now add this project and open the folder in the tree view, our folder structure is noticeably different than a standard project. The only subfolder that exists is the category folder. This is because with a basic style, estimating is done at the category level without assigning resources. To add a category, again we can right-click in the tree view and select New Category. We now have the ability to enter estimates in the original estimates column for all values in blue, as well as edit the settings for billing type and overhead type and projected dates. Because this is a time and materials project type, we also have the ability to select the AR item number. On the accounts page, we can edit the default accounts from the account sets. And we continue to add categories as necessary for the project. Again, the difference between standard and basic styles is that basic projects allow you to define estimates by category, while standard projects require you to specify resources before you can define categories and estimates. In other words, for standard projects, you will have to know in advance what materials and equipment will be used and which subcontractors and employees will be used for each category. Now let's discuss the columns that exist here on the estimates page. Original estimates are entered here while the project is at the estimate stage. Once the project is opened, these original estimates cannot be edited. Once the project is opened, the original estimates will move to the current estimates column, and again, these estimates cannot be edited directly from the contract maintenance window. The committed column allows you to see the quantity and dollar amount of commitments made for this category. This would be transactions that have been entered on purchase orders but not yet received. The actuals column shows actual costs incurred and revenue billed. The recognized column shows the amount of costs and revenue that have been recognized through the revenue recognition process. In other words, the amounts that are no longer sitting in the WIP and billings accounts, but rather the revenue and cost of sales accounts. For material categories, there is one additional column. The stored column allows you to see the amount of items that are stored on a job site or placed on the job. It allows for tracking of quantities and costs allocated to each job. You can add new projects to contracts at any time, as we just did. The projects are automatically entered with an estimate status. You can also add new resources and categories to projects at any time, even for open projects. You simply right-click on the tree view and add categories and resources as necessary. There is one caution, however. If you add new categories to an open project, the original estimates are affected with the estimates entered for the new category. If you do not want to have this ability to edit original estimates once the project is open, you can choose to block the ability to add new categories from the contract maintenance window. You can still add new categories using a transaction type in PJC, and that will not update original estimates, only current estimates as expected. Adding new contracts can be done manually by first adding the contract information here, then by adding each project and category individually and entering estimates. This process can take some time to build contracts. To assist in this process, there is a new contract wizard. To open the new contract wizard, click the Zoom button next to the contract number field. On the Copy From page, you can see that you can assign a customer number for the new contract, and you can copy an existing contract from PJC, including that contract's original or current estimates, or actuals as the original estimates for the new contract. The contract number page helps you format the contract number. If you are copying information from an existing contract, the contract style would be predefined. To create the new contract, click Finish. The new contract has been created with all the projects and categories assigned. To add the contract, you must select the Add button at the bottom of the contract maintenance window. The tree view also provides you with access to two separate aspects of dealing with contracts, projects, and categories: inquiring on transactions and budget maintenance. To access the transaction history window, you can right-click on any contract, project, category, or resource folder and select Transactions. The PJC Transactions window appears, and the contract and project that was selected in Contract Maintenance has been selected. The window provides detailed transaction information for all posted transactions. You can use the filters for contract, project, category, resource, and application independently. In other words, you can leave all the fields blank except for a project number, and all transactions made to that project number will be shown, regardless of contract, category, resource, or application. For the resource field, you must either specify a category to use the finder for the resource, or simply type in the resource code. You will not have access to a finder if you are filtering on a resource alone. Note that you can drill down from the transaction history window to view source documents, including transactions originating in other ledgers. From the tree view, you can also right-click on any contract, project, or category folder and select Budgets. The Budget Maintenance window appears. Up to 5 budget sets can be defined for quantities, costs, and revenues. Budgets are defined at the category level only, regardless of accounting method, project type, or project style. Budgeting in PJC is a great way to estimate costs and revenues over time. To manually enter budgets, you can use the tree view to select a project and category, and double-click on any budget column and row to manually define a budget for that specific period. You can use the calculation methods at the bottom right to calculate and automatically enter budget amounts across periods. For the copy method, you must use the budget set lookup feature to call up budget or actual amounts for different contracts, projects, and categories. This will populate the inquiry columns, allowing you to copy from those columns to the budget columns. As a reference, you can also choose to show the original estimate, current estimate, or actual quantity, cost, and revenue for the specific contract project category selected here. Finally, when building budgets, you can select Add To for adding on to existing budget amounts, Replace to replace existing budget amounts with new amounts, or Clear to clear all budget amounts. Remember to save your budgets when you are finished. You have completed this session on PJC Contract Maintenance. You have successfully learned how to use the Contract Maintenance window to set up and work with contracts, projects, and categories, use the Transaction History window for inquiries,